How good is your favorite NFL team? Welcome, football fans, to another week of the BLV NFL Power Rankings. This is the video where I rank every NFL team from the worst to the best, number 32 to number 1. And at this time of the year, it's clear. We know who the best teams are. We know who the worst teams are. But it's identifying the strengths for the future of the worst teams, the direction of those franchises, and then at the top of the league, we're trying to sort through who are the contenders and who are the pretenders. And as always, this is the most in-depth, brutal, and honest power rankings you will find on the entire internet. It's the bottom line view, baby. Gronk, spike the like button. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already for weekly NFL power rankings just like this. And let me know in the comments your opinion on your favorite team. Where does your favorite team stand in your opinion? Are they mid? Are they great? Or are they terrible? Let me know in the comment section below. And let's kick it off with the worst team in football, who remains the New York Giants at number 32. Pretty easy to claim that the Giants are the worst team in the NFL when they start Tommy DeVito, and then Tim Boyle replaces Tommy DeVito because he is somehow better. I said that. Yes. Tim Boyle, a quarterback that I don't think should be in the NFL, might be better than the guy that the Giants just started in an NFL game. They are refusing to play Drew Lock because that makes them at least somewhat respectable. And within the Giants organization, they want to be absolutely 0% representable, entertaining, or credible at all. So they must start the worst quarterback they can possibly find. Their offensive line is obviously the worst in the sport. Tracy, I like. Neighbors, I love. But there's not a lot to love about this team. I think it's going to be fascinating to see what Brian Daboll, what happens there. He's probably going to be gone. It's probably going to be a new coaching staff next year. It's probably going to be a new quarterback next year. Daniel Jones, of course, did get cut. He's in Minnesota. So they don't have a franchise quarterback. They will be drafting one. Probably. Maybe even signing another. We'll see. They're going to have a new coach. So there's a lot of new in New York for 2025. At least that's something to look forward to. And I think the Giants are honestly fighting their best to get the top draft pick. I think, honestly, they are doing their most to get the top draft pick. Out of all the teams in football, this is the team making the most effort to be terrible. So that's why they're at number 32, which is difficult to do in the year 2024, where the entire league sucks. Well, at least 99% of it. At number 31, I've got the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders are the second worst team in the league. That being said, when Aiden O'Connell plays, I'd probably move this team up maybe 1 or 2 spots. I also respect the Raiders for putting forth an effort. The one thing I can say positively about Antonio Pierce is that his players play for him, and it's clear that they give effort, right? Like Brock Bowers gives pride and effort. Jacoby Myers is a prideful player. Whichever running back's running the ball is running hard. Amir Abdullah, I mean, this guy, he's still playing hard. And really, what's the reason? You know, there's guys on defense, Spillane, you know, they play with an attitude. They play with a physicality. They play with an edge. And even when they suck, they still go out there and try to perform. Does that mean they're good? Absolutely not. But at least they play hard. That being said, other than that, Antonio Pierce is a bottom 3 coach in football. He is awful. He is atrocious. He has his headset up like 99% of the game, so I don't know if he ever says anything into the microphone on the headset. You know, we're trying to figure out what he's writing in terms of his notes, but I also don't know what he says in the microphone because it's never down near his mouth, okay? I think without their respectable defensive coordinator, who's also a Patriot guy, I don't think they would have any respectability. Their offense, I like what Scott Turner has tried and attempted to do, but you can't do anything with Desmond Ridder. That guy is a piece of shitter, all right? He is terrible. Desmond Ridder, my goodness. You could find anybody. Tim Boyle would be better, bro. So hopefully Aiden O'Connell comes back because with him, at least they're respectable. I don't think O'Connell is a starting level quarterback, but I do think he's a decent backup, and he can actually function as a pocket passer, which is something that elevates their offense, right? So the Raiders, actually, it's going to be fascinating to see the direction of this franchise. Obviously, Mark Davis, he's been working on his haircut. I see it, good on you, Mark. I still don't know, about the girlfriend. We're still trying to do our research. We're doing a background check. We have yet to clarify whether or not Mark Davis's girlfriend is with him for his handsomeness or for his money. We will get back to you as soon as we find those results. Mark claims that it is because he's handsome, but we will get that information as soon as possible. And when it comes to the quarterback decision, I think that will be had by Tom Brady. I'm going to be 100% honest. And this is a team in the Raiders that could desperately use a first overall pick, right? This team has been really bad for most of the last 20 years. And the last time they had a first pick was Jamarcus Russell. So I think they deserve another chance at a go at a first overall pick. At least I would like them to have a first overall pick over the Giants. I really would. I mean, the Giants, they're just, I don't even know. But the Raiders, at least they're in Vegas. I feel like it's compelling to have a superstar in that city. We'll see. The Raiders. The Giants, I mean, they can screw off for beating the Patriots twice in the Super Bowl. All right, number 30. We got the New Orleans Saints. And here comes Jermari with his little fingers saying, Mitch, you're a hater. Mitch, stop saying the Saints suck. Mitch, why are you hating? Why? I'm going to unsubscribe. Bro, stop hating. Hey, Jermari, I'll stop hating when you beat me in Madden, bro. How about that, Jermari? Take it and shove it. The Saints aren't good. I don't know what to tell you. All right? Are they playing with passion? Are they playing with pride? Are they playing competitively against teams I didn't think they would? Absolutely. They still lost. I don't care if the score is 69-0 or if it's 20-19. They lost, bro. Spencer Rattler, Jake Haener, who, by the way, has the best headshots in the NFL in terms of his photo game. Bro is posing like me on my thumbnails. I mean, come on, give him some credit. And the Saints, they blow, though. Their defense, they suck. They can't stop the run. I don't know how that game against the Commanders was competitive. If anybody knows, let me know. Like, yes, I get the ref point. Like, the refs were really bad. It was really one-sided. But I watched the game, and I still don't understand what happened. I'm still dumbfounded by it. Now, maybe the Commanders are just that fraudy and fugazi, which is probably true. But the Saints should not be in a game. I suspect that Jermari is going to get a big, solid slice of humble pie against the Packers. I have a feeling that that's going to be the case. At number 29, the Cleveland Browns. The Browns moved down the list because they're sitting Jameis Winston, as Durkant coined him, Mr. Aura, who had easily his worst game as a starter of the Cleveland Browns against the Kansas City Chiefs, because of course he did. And of course David Njoku was banged up. And of course Cedric Tillman couldn't play, because they're playing the Chiefs. And the Browns didn't just turn it over once or twice or 3 times. They turned it over damn near 6 times. Not an exaggeration. They actually turned it over 6 times. And one of the touchdowns the Chiefs had came off a muffed punt early in the game that put them up 7-0. And the Browns defense tried their hardest. They held the Chiefs to basically 14 points at the end of the day. But the Browns could not go without an end zone interception or turnovers in general. Ford will be replacing Nick Chubb, who's out for the year again. I like Kevin Stefanski. I like some of the players on Cleveland. I just really hope they figure out the quarterback position, because I cannot do another season of Deshaun Watson. Like, I just can't do it. Guys, I can't do it. Like, please. I was really hoping for Jameis to finish the season strong so that maybe he would get a chance, but you know what you're getting in Jameis. You're going to move the football. You're going to be productive. You're going to get games where he puts up 400, but you're also going to get some turnovers. It's just the way he plays. But you're also going to get 3 or 4 great interviews every couple of weeks. So that's the price you pay with Mr. Aura. Unfortunately, no Jameis. So Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I think, is absolute booty. Fits the Browns quite well. I have no reason to cheer for them any longer. I put them at number 29. At number 28, the Tennessee Titans, who actually probably get an upgrade with Mason Rudolph, who, by the way, I've seen a video, it's circulating, that Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer, is a system reindeer, and I have to agree with that young man. I do believe that Rudolph is a system reindeer when you really think about the circumstances. The guy really sits out the front, and all he does is he's got a red nose, and he clears the path. He doesn't do any of the hard work. He doesn't put the time in the gym. He didn't grind for many years to get to the top. No. He was simply born with a red nose. So Mason Rudolph starting near Christmas makes perfect sense to me. It seems to happen every single year. That being said, I think the Titans offense is a lot more efficient when he plays. Obviously, they turn it over less. Will Levis is one of the most frustrating quarterbacks in football because I feel like on average, he throws an accurate pass. I feel like he does have physical talent that would suggest he's an NFL quarterback, but his decision-making is dumbfounding. His, incapacity to not take a stupid sack, not throw an incredible turnover, or make a crazy-ass pose after he turns that turnover, it's sensational. It truly is. The Titans' defense has fallen off because their secondary is injured, and they probably just stopped trying, to be honest with you. Why would you try at this point? That being said, I think they're going to try against the Colts. I could see that game pretty tight and pretty interesting. It's a divisional matchup. They lost the first one. It was a close game. That was with Joe Flacco, though, I believe. And we all know that Anthony Richardson is worse than Joe Flacco. So the Titans might actually pull off an upset here with Mason Rudolph. We'll see what happens. That being said, I think they still don't have a coach. I think they fired a better coach for a worse coach. I'm going to be on the record. I've said that many times. At number 27, the Chicago Bears. The Bears. Caleb Williams was really bad. I know Bears fans don't want to admit it, but Caleb Williams is bad. I've just never seen a more talented human in my life play with less rhythm and precision at the quarterback position. And that's what I get back to, man. And people laugh at me or whatever, and people judge the quarterback position incorrectly. This is why I always bring this up. Quarterback is more about timing, precision, accuracy, going to the place that you need to go with the ball consistently, and being consistent as a player, knowing what to do. It's more about that than how strong your arm is, how many sacks you can avoid in one play, how you can throw the ball off platform from a million different angles. But if all of that is what you can do and none of the actual quarterbacking is what you can do, which was a concern coming out of USC and why I didn't have Caleb as the number 1 quarterback in the draft class, it's part of it. But he is just erratic, period. And his accuracy's fallen off. And I think that some of the scouts that were trying to sell you on the fact that he can play from structure were really trying to extrapolate a few plays every game. Because mostly at USC, he would just run around in circles, throw the ball, or throw a screen. And then on top of that, you have a guy that's a drama queen who is in all accounts soft as Charmin. Like, none about it. If I was Ben Johnson, if I was Liam Cohen, if I was Mike Vrabel, there is no chance that I would be signing up to be the head coach, because I would be blamed for all his failures, despite him being an absolute jabroni. I said it. The Bears defense, I don't know what happened to their run defense. They cannot stop the run. It is bad. Tyreek Stevenson might have the IQ of a 2-year-old. He is an absolute idiot. And the wide receiving core, Rome Odunze, I'm pretty sure I could outrun him. I'm not positive, but the guy is slow. And Keenan Allen is fat, bro. Like, what is this guy eating in between the games? It looks like he's like Santa eating cookies, bro. Get some milk. At number 26, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yes, I said wires. Mark that down, Caesar. Mac Jones is at number 26. This guy somehow finds a way to throw 2 interceptions a game. There was some great comedy from Mac Jones against the Jets. He made some of the most dumbfounding plays I've ever seen. He took like a 6-yard sack where he ran out of bounds intentionally. That was pretty impressive. The Jacksonville is now playing guys named Doctor Strange at tight end. They've got they're on backups, but Brian Thomas is amazing. So we'll give him that. And he was on my bench. That's why he was so amazing. He was on my bench. Defensively, they still are not good. I mean, they made Aaron Rodgers look like 2014 Aaron Rodgers. Devontae Adams looked like 2020 Devontae Adams. So there is that. This team is bad. I honestly, though, I don't get how you would sign up to be the coach of this team, though. Their owner is just completely lost. He's not an idiot. He's actually quite smart. He just doesn't know what he's doing. And it's hard, okay? The GM wants to coach the team. The GM is a jackass. Like, the GM, I don't know how he has a job anymore. I don't know why. Like, this guy is still going to have a job after paying Trevor Lawrence about $2,000 kajillion million. And Trevor Lawrence is not good. Like, I don't know how you still have a job after you pick Blake Bortles, after you pay Trevor Lawrence, after you pick Trayvon Walker over Aiden Hutchinson. I mean, there's so many flaws in his resume. It's like Kevin Durant and his predictions for the week. I mean, it's so bad. So, Jacksonville, I don't know, man. It's an infrastructure problem. At number 25, the New England Patriots. Oh, boy. Gerard Mayo is probably the worst coach I've ever seen. I'm not trying to exaggerate. This guy does not know what he's doing at a podium. I thought that would be the thing he would be good at. You would think that after Bill Belichick, you would upgrade in terms of your podium presence. But no, bro, this guy every game comes out with a new quote about how to be an inept coach. This week, he blames the offensive coordinator. He said, bro, they asked him a question about why are they not using Drake May's legs on 4th down? And he said, I don't know. You said it, not me. That's literally what the guy said. I'm not even joking around. You guys can look that up for yourself. 1 week, he said that you can't coach after the players start playing in between the lines. You can't coach anymore. The game started, you can't coach. Bro, what is he good at? Like, I really didn't want it to get to this point. I like Gerard Mayo, the player. He's a Patriot legend. It's sad. The guy is sad. As a coach, he's sad. And this receiving core might be the biggest piece of donkey crap I've ever seen. Holy smokes. Kayshon Boutte, bro. That was one of the worst interceptions I've ever seen. Drake May threw it in your hands and you lateraled the ball to the other team. Kendrick Bourne celebrating after catching a 70-yard bomb that was perfectly placed in his hands. He didn't even do anything. When he's down by 17 points in the fourth quarter. What a jabroni. All right. Demario Douglas, I don't know where you've been. I give credit to Stevenson and Gibson. They're the only thing going for the offense. Adrian Lowe, man. Oh my goodness, he is the worst left tackle in football. This offensive line is a joke. The only one that takes accountability on the offense is Drake May, and he's 21 years old. And then defensively, like, it's not even, I don't even know what to say. Like, other than Christian Gonzalez, it's a complete joke. Like, nobody's in their run fits. Nobody can fucking tackle anybody. They can't cover. Like, I don't know what to tell you. They are, like, easily the biggest one-year regression of a defense I've ever seen without injuries in my entire life. Like, the pass rush is non-existent. The run defense is atrocious. Everybody is just not where they're supposed to be. This team sucks. At number 24, the Atlanta Falcons. I didn't think after a win on Monday Night Football that I would move a NFL team down a list. But the Atlanta Falcons, you suck. I mean, you played the Las Vegas Raiders and Desmond Ridder, who had 100 yards. The Raiders had 100 yards until the last possession of the game, and they almost won. Like, how's that even possible? I may want for Christmas, all I want for Christmas is coup, but I don't want you, Kirk Cousins. You suck. You're washed. I didn't think I would get to this point with Kirk Cousins because I like Kirk Cousins, but man, he's done. He's got no arm. He looks like Matt Ryan in Indy. He really does. It's a perfect comparison. He looks like Matt Ryan with the Colts. Cousins is washed. If not for Bijan, like, making negative 5-yard runs into 3-yard gains, this offense would be a piece of crap. Drake London is still playing well. Mooney has kind of disappeared because I think there's no zip on the football when he gets it. Ray McLeod playing receiver wearing number 34 just really makes me angry. I don't know why. The defense, like, looked decent because they played Desmond Ridder, but they're really not. Like, this team might make the playoffs, and they suck. This would be the worst team I've ever seen in my life make the playoffs. I'm not even exaggerating. They're really bad. Raheem Morris is awful. Awful. God. At number 23, I've got the New York Jets outside of the bottom 8. That is absolutely gross. The Jets are terrible. They have no coaching. Their defense allowed 400 yards to Mac Jones and the Jags offense. But yet their offense is playing a lot better. Like, Aaron Rodgers is playing good. Like, I don't think Aaron Rodgers is washed. Like, Ben will definitely comment that I'm wrong about that, but you give him a little bit of infrastructure, a little bit of offensive line support, a defense that can actually stop something, and a coach, and I feel like this guy could definitely take a team to the playoffs. I know that he's an egomaniac. I would need, like, if I was Pittsburgh, I would be interested in Aaron Rodgers. If I had a strong personality of a head coach and I had a good culture, I would be interested. You know, there's not many of those that have poor teams, right? That have poor quarterbacks, I should say. There's not many of those teams, right? But I would be really interested in Aaron Rodgers if I was like Pittsburgh, for example. Throwing that one out there. Is there another team that kind of makes sense? The Niners? Just saying. At number 23, the Jets, though, I feel like, yeah, I loved how Adams played. I think Garrett Wilson has played well lately. Breece Hall's somehow still playing. I thought he was out. The defense sucks. I mean, they're an embarrassment. I don't have anything else to say. We know what the Jets are. They're weirdly getting better, though. At number 22, the Carolina Panthers. This team was very disappointing against Dallas. I thought they would maybe win. They were at home. I thought they would at least put forth an effort. But what do you know? Bryce Young reappeared. The real Bryce Young, please stand up. Bryce Young reappeared. He was really, really, really bad. I text my buddy Brett, who is a Panthers fan, one of 5 on earth, and he said he was bad. He said the defense made Cooper Rush look like Joe Montana in his prime. He also said that Rico Dowdle looked like Adrian Peterson in 2012. So, yeah, the Panthers defense we know is a problem. They're going to have to fix the entire thing. It's a problem. I like Canales a decent enough amount. I feel like he's proven himself over these last few games. The offensive line is promising, but they dealt with a tough pass rush in Micah Parsons and company. I think we were a little bit underrating Dallas, just a little bit. You know, we saw the signs. We'll talk about Dallas, but Carolina, to me, very, very disappointing. They had to move back on the list. I still feel, though, they're actually better than Atlanta. Like, if you told me they were going to play Atlanta tomorrow, I'd probably pick Carolina. I'm not going to lie. Like, Carolina is probably better than Atlanta. They probably are. You know, at least they have the Canadian kid, Hubbard. They're losing receivers left and right, though. That is not good. I'm sorry, Panthers fans. You suck again. All right, at number 21, the Indianapolis Colts. It's an embarrassment that an Anthony Richardson-led football team can be number 21 in NFL power ranking, and you guys are not going to judge this ranking at all. It's pretty sad. You know, they were winning 13-6 against Denver, and they somehow lost 31-13. That featured one of the worst plays I've ever seen. But this is, and I'm talking about the Benito pick six. If you haven't seen it yet, please look it up. Benito pick six. Search it up on YouTube. That play is exactly what's wrong with the Colts. And let me explain why. Anthony Richardson is such a bad quarterback, and he's so inaccurate, so erratic, that his offensive chess master, Shane Steichen, by many accounts, cannot trust him to drop back and throw the ball when they need him to. So they have to do a crazy trick play to gain yards. That's the problem with the Colts. They have to overcome Anthony Richardson being terrible at the sport. And that's just not doable at the NFL level. I'm sorry. He is awful. The defense is competitive. I thought they played well against Denver. They forced Bo Nix to have one of his worst games, especially lately. I think they forced 3 picks. You know, Taylor had a good game, except he somehow just threw the ball on the goal line. What an idiot. And I don't know, man. This direction of this franchise, I think they're lost. Like, I don't know where they're going. Luckily, their entire division, besides really the Texans, have a bright future. So the Colts will be in that race, at least. Hopefully they get eliminated from the playoffs rather quickly, because I want no part of them in January. Like, please no. I do not want to be talking about them in the wild card. Please no. At number 20, the Dallas Cowboys. I brought them up. I think the Cowboys are more deserving of a playoff spot than the Atlanta Falcons. I'll say that. The Cowboys defense, Zimmer's got them playing. You know, they're hunting the quarterback. They're playing fast. They're playing the run better. Thought that was impressive. Their offense, I think Cooper Rush is doing a good enough job despite having a BB gun of an arm. Rico Dowdle, he's been the guy for them. Like, he has been the reason that has sparked their offense. Obviously, we know what CeeDee Lamb is. Cooks has given them a little bit more of a reliable threat. I like what they're doing with both Ferguson and Schoonmaker and the tight end and the variety offensively. And I have to admit, I'm going to say this again, Mike McCarthy is coaching his ass off. Like, Mike McCarthy is coaching for his job, and it clearly is evident. Like, you can see how well this team is performing despite the injuries. I think despite a lack of talent. I don't think they have a lot of talent on the O-line. I don't think they have a lot of talent at receiver. I don't think they have a lot of talent at running back. I don't think they have a lot of talent on defense. I don't think they have a lot of talent. Clearly, they don't have an NFL starting quarterback. So I actually think Mike McCarthy, you know, he might not be Andy Reid, but The guy is clearly an NFL head coach. I mean, that's clear. So maybe we should stop blaming Mike McCarthy for literally everything that happens in Dallas, and maybe we should start blaming the quarterback that makes $70 million a year, and maybe some of the choices that the front office has made. At number 19, the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals-Patriots game was one of the strangest games from the point of, like, when I was watching it, it felt like I was watching a preseason game where, like, nobody was providing any effort. I do want to say about the Cardinals, Kyler Murray sucks. Marvin Harrison also, I think, sucks. Like, I know that Christian Gonzalez locked him up and stuff. I have not really seen anything that indicates Marvin Harrison is good. Like, honestly. Now, maybe I'm exaggerating, but I just don't see it at all. Like, Greg Dortch was better. Trey McBride is a stud. And James Conner is a stud. And that's carrying their offense. McBride, Conner. That's it. I think they need to do more with Kyler's legs because with his arm, they're not doing a lot even against the Patriots. Defensively, they were fine enough, but I just feel like the Patriots kind of beat themselves on that side of the ball. I hope this team doesn't make the playoffs. I don't think they're any good at all. I really don't. I just think that they play hard on defense. They're well schemed to a certain degree. And they have a few studs on offense, and I think they run the ball well. They have more strengths than most teams, but I don't think they're very good. At number 18, the San Francisco 49ers. I think the Cardinals have a better record than the Niners, but I would put the Niners ahead. I think they're the better team. I think that was a sloppy game against the Rams that they easily could have won, on Thursday night. People forgot about that game because it was so boring. My goodness. I wish it wasn't raining because it probably would have been a really good game if it wasn't raining. But Patriots, are my team, of course, but the Niners are my second team. I mean, that's pretty obvious. And I'm disappointed by this season. I left my heart out there in the BLV versus Consensus episode. I let you guys know what I thought. I think the Niners will be back next year. I mean, as I've said many times, I think as long as Kyle Shanahan is running this organization, I think they'll be relevant for a long time. I think the biggest question they need to answer is whether or not Brock Purdy is a guy that they want to pay and they think is worth it. Because when we look at his performance this year, he's been good against bad teams. But when you look at his performance against good teams, the best and biggest games he's had to play this year, very few and far between as he played well. Like, he has not played well in a lot of the biggest games. And it feels like there's a common theme when he struggles. Man coverage has been a huge problem for the Niners this year. They can't separate. Debo can't get open. Without Ayuk, they really struggle outside. Juwan Jennings is the only guy that really creates separation, and he's not a burner. So it's like he's running a 20-yard route tree. Kittle is a dog, but like there's only so much that he can do, especially when he's usually, he's usually getting a lot of focus in that regard. And then McCaffrey's been injured, so there's not that option. The run game's been worse than I've ever seen it in San Francisco under Kyle. I think part of that's the offensive line. Part of that's the running back injuries. Part of that is probably just a natural regression to a certain degree and teams figuring out their tendencies. Their defense has been up and down all year. I thought they actually played really well against the Rams for like 99% of the game. They kind of wore out. They should have had multiple picks, but they can't catch. I love how Hufanga has played since he returned. I thought Dre Greenlaw looked great in his return, so that's positive for next year. I do think that they need to rebuild the offensive line and defensive lines, and I think they need to consider their quarterback position. I really do. I know there's guys like David Lombardi who cover the team who think Purdy is the next Tom Brady, but he really is not. I mean, there's nothing that he really does that gives you that notion. He's a decent quarterback with a great supporting cast and a phenomenal offensive coach, and that's really what he is. So he's more of a Tua than he is a Mahomes, let's be fair. So at number 18, I've got the Niners. It wasn't their year this year. They were very unlucky, even against the Rams. Debo drops that ball. He's a jabroni. Like, if anybody's a jabroni, it's Debo Samuel. So at number 8, it's sad, though. It really is sad. At number 18, I've got the 49ers. They are still going to be competitive down the stretch. They're going to be a team you probably don't want to play just because, like, they're playing, like, with nothing to lose at this point. Like, And they still got talent. So you probably, like if you're Miami and you have a very small chance of making the playoffs, you don't want to play the Niners this week. If you're Detroit and you're trying to get that number 1 seed, you don't want to play the Niners in their building because they might just come out and play their best game of the year. Just the way this team has been. So, but that's the type of team they are now. They're not relevant for playoff conversation. They're just kind of a spoiler at this point. At number 17, I've got the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Unbelievable. As much as I want T. Higgins to be a Patriot, I'd love to see him in Cincinnati for another 5 years. I mean, this passing game is my favorite to watch in football, and it's not the most complex. It's just precise. It's on time. It's great outside structure when Joe has to create. I think if they could get just a little bit better on the offensive line, and maybe a little bit better at like their third receiver spot or something like that, this offense next year, forget about it. They need to figure out what's going to happen with their coach, whether or not they want to upgrade from Zach Taylor, because I don't know, man. Like, Zach Taylor's a decent coach. I don't think he's a terrible coach. I just feel like it might be time for a culture reset for this team. That's my opinion. Defensively, I think they're like absolutely horrific. I think they're one of the worst defenses I've ever seen in terms of speed, in terms of coverage, in terms of pass rush, in terms of really everything but like traditional run defense against running backs. They're awful. Like, honestly. So, yeah, the Bengals are at 17. We know what they are. They still got a chance for the playoffs. They're an amazing team to watch, one of my favorite teams to watch, one of the most explosive teams in football. Jamar Chase is a freak show. But honestly, like, this was such a disappointing season for them. Hopefully it hasn't ended yet. They still got an opportunity. I think what they need is the Colts need to lose one more game out of their final 3, which is very possible. The Dolphins need to lose one more game, I think, which is also possible. And the Broncos is the hard part. The Broncos have to lose 3 games. Now, they do play the Chargers, the Chiefs, and the Bengals. So that it's possible. And the Bengals need to win out. And it's also possible because the Steelers might have some injuries. The Steelers kind of slowing down, it feels like. That will be the final game. The Bengals will play the Broncos next week, and they play a pretty winnable game this week. I can't quite recall who they're playing, but I'm pretty sure it's a winnable game. So the Bengals have a chance. I mean, as much as I think the Broncos are a great story, I would still rather have Joe Burrow in the playoffs than not in the playoffs, especially if it's against the Chiefs or the Bills. That would be a lot of fun. So at number 17, the Bengals. At number 16, the Seattle Seahawks. I did not realize how bad Sam Howell was until I watched him play in that game. Holy smokes, he was bad. Wow. That was impressive. I mean, he was a catastrophic performance on that Monday night. Sunday night. Wow, he was bad. I was really disappointed by the defense in that game. Now, I know that the Packers are good at running the ball, and I know they have a good offense, and I know Christian Watson's faster than you, but, like, it was really bad, especially at the start. They figured out the run game later on, but it still felt like they couldn't do enough, and then offensively, they just struggled to block. I mean, they allowed, like, 7 sacks. I don't know why they don't throw the ball to DK Metcalf. It makes no sense, and they definitely miss Kenneth Walker just in terms of explosiveness. But the Seahawks, they're just an average team, man. They're an average team with an opportunity because their division is so bad. That's really what they are. There's nothing to say other than that. I think Seahawks fans got excited because they swept the Cardinals like that's supposed to be a big deal or something. At number 16. At number 15, the Los Angeles Chargers, who are one of the biggest disappointments of Week 15. Awful performance against Tampa Bay. They looked like a complete fraud in that game. Not only offensively, with a lack of rhythm in the second half, but defensively, they looked like a bad defense. And they were like a top 10 defense for like 90% of the year. And they were the number 1 scoring defense in the NFL. And I know that they had played a weak schedule, but still, the Bucs ripped them up. It didn't matter what they did. Throw to Mike Evans, throw to McMillan, run the ball with Bucky Irving, throw the ball to Rashad White. It really didn't matter. Baker bake them big time. And they got wrecked. And as soon as the Bucs started to play, a little blitz and man coverage and a little bit of tight coverage on the outside, Herbert had no answers with this Charger receiving core that is really, really bad. I think the Chargers, they are what I thought they would be. They've ultimately come around to the team that I expected, which is just not a talented enough team to compete with the top of the league. But because they have a good structure of coaching and they have a great talent at quarterback, they're capable of winning against the bad teams. But even teams like Tampa kind of expose them, so that was embarrassing. At number 14, I've got the Commanders. I don't know what to do with this team because their record suggests they should maybe be a little bit higher, but as you guys know, these are not record standings, okay? The Commanders almost losing to the Saints was dumbfounding. I brought it up many times. Their run game did not dominate the way I expected, and I think it was clear that they're missing a number 2 option in the passing game. Other than Terry McLaurin, who scored 2 touchdowns, they struggled to get anybody else going. I think Noah Brown's out for the year, so they're trying to make Zacchaeus work. Zach Ertz was injured, so that hurt them. And then defensively, I feel like they just stay on the field a little bit too much, and they're not able to close out games effectively against the Saints. That was concerning. We'll see how they play against the Eagles. It's a step up in competition. They have been pretty lousy as an overall team lately. Their only real impressive game was against Tennessee, and that speaks volumes. Otherwise, they've lost a lot of games, and they've nearly lost to the Saints. So, yeah, this team looks like a complete fraud, a team that's going to get demolished in the first round of the playoffs if they make it. And honestly, at this point, I'd rather see 2 teams from the West make it, in all honesty. So, at number 14, the Commanders. Like Washington or Seattle, I don't know. At least Seattle has a defense. I don't really know. What would you guys rather have? Let me know in the comments. At number 13, I have the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins are at 13 because they are very reliable at beating bad teams and below average teams, but they just reliably don't beat good teams. So if you look at the NFL, there's probably about, if you want to say, 13 is a great place for a good to bad cutoff, right? Like the Dolphins can compete with, probably go back and forth against teams like the Rams, as they did, right? They could probably play a great game against the Commanders. They can play with the Seahawks, right? Those type of teams in that range. They can dominate the Jets and the Patriots. But when it comes to playing the Texans, like an objectively good team, not a great team, but a good team. If they played the Steelers, if they played the Ravens, we know what would happen. They would lose because Tua always loses these games. Tua, it wasn't his worst game, but he was bad against Houston. Tyreek was really bad. I thought Stingley dominated him. Jonnu didn't have his epic performance as he typically does, but he caught a bunch of low-end passes. Mike McDaniel, I don't know what he's smoking, bro, but all he does is like throw the ball short. Like every throw is a screen. Every design is a quick throw. Like I don't know what's going on. The run game is non-existent. That's supposed to be Mike McDaniel's bag. Like this team is overall just really soft. Like they can't run the ball. Their run defense is spotty. A lot of their players are drama queens. They can't play outdoors. Like they even played in a dome and they got physically dominated. Like if I was a Dolphin fan, as fun as Mike McDaniel is, I would want to move on. I'm not going to lie. Like I think he's more of an offensive coordinator. I just don't think he brings a toughness that is needed when you play in this NFC against Buffalo and you play Baltimore and you play Pittsburgh and you play probably Cincinnati in the coming years and you play Houston and you play, even with Drake May, it could be the Patriots in a couple years. You play the Harbaugh Chargers. You play the Chiefs, right? The Sean Payton Broncos. You notice a trend here? All these teams are way tougher. A lot of these teams are cold weather teams. The Dolphins are easily the softest talented team in football, and it's really disgusting to watch. At number 12, the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams are definitely a step up from the Dolphins. I think even though they lost to the Dolphins, which was kind of weird, I think that Stafford played terrible against the Niners. But what I actually got from that game was the fact that they won a game where their offense didn't play that well, right? Puka didn't do much until the end. Kupp was literally non-existent. He had 0 fantasy points, and he sold everyone's fantasy team. Their run game didn't do too much until the end. And really, McVay was not on it in terms of his play calling. The Niners were kind of on everything the Rams were doing, and the weather was really impactful to a team that plays in LA. That was clear. The Hollywood team wanted nothing to do with the rain. Now, on the other side, I thought their D-line played really well. I thought their D-line dominated the Niners. I thought they played really physical. I thought that's the reason they won. I also thought their corners low-key played the best game of their season. They locked up. They played a lot more man than they typically do, and they locked up. So, good on them. The Rams showed a versatility, though. They showed a toughness. They showed a grittiness that it doesn't have to be pretty for them to win. So, they've shown back-to-back weeks that they can do different things well. So, that's good. At number 12, we know what Stafford can do in a big game. We know what Nakua can do. We know they can win a shootout in a dome. But what can they do outdoors? I'd be concerned, but really, when you look at the NFC, there's not a lot of teams that you're going to be playing in tough environments outdoors. Like maybe the Eagles and the Packers, but the Packers are a wild card team, and there's not a lot of them, right? Detroit is a dome. Tampa is a nice place to play. Like, this team's fortunate they're not in the AFC. At number 11, the Denver Broncos. The Broncos, they're very well coached. I thought Nick's had a terrible game. Sean Payton, to me, is the coach of the year, in my opinion. Nick Bonito is their MVP. I think that's clear and obvious. I think their defense overall is really solid, and they kept them in that game against the Colts. And offensively, they need to find a running game. If they want to be some sort of threat in the playoffs and they want to finish the season off strong, they need to find more of a running game, because relying on Bo Nix, who is a rookie with like a below average receiving core, is just not going to work against the best teams in football. Even against the Colts, it was a struggle. At number 10, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I moved the Bucs up into the top 10. Baker deserves it. This team deserves it. Mike Evans deserves it. This team just doesn't back down from a challenge. They don't care who they're playing. They think they can win. You look at their offensive line. I think it's the low-key, most underrated line in football. Tristan Wirfs is the best offensive lineman in the NFL, in my opinion. Rashad White and Bucky Irving is an awesome combo. And Irving is, right now, phenomenal. I mean, where would you put him in terms of running backs? Let me know in the comments. I think right now he's top 10. Like, honestly. Mike Evans, obviously, going for 1,000 yards is like unstoppable. He's basically Megatron. And then on the other side, McMillan is kind of finding his spot as that Chris Godwin replacement, which is a good development towards the playoffs here. That was a huge win to get themselves in a position for the playoffs against the Chargers. That might be their toughest opponent remaining. Defensively, I thought they played one of their best games of the season. I thought they locked up Herbert. They stopped the run. Their run defense has been way better lately. That's enabled them to play much better pass defense. And even without Antoine Winfield and some of the injuries they've sustained, they're getting better defensively, which shows good coaching from Bowles on his side of the ball, which is something we hadn't really seen the last year and a half. At number 9, I got the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers, they were just kind of embarrassed by the Eagles. I don't really give them a huge downgrade because of that. It just kind of confirms what I previously thought. Now, they didn't have George Pickens, but I mean, every team is dealing with injuries at this point, and it just shows how thin their receiving core is and how thin their offense is. They're so reliant on Pickens making insane plays on high leverage downs and high leverage moments that they don't have a lot else. I mean, their run offense is not as good as people think it is. Their O-line is one of the worst in the playoff field. Their quarterback's one of the worst in the playoff field. There's not a lot for Arthur Smith to work with, despite what he's done this year to upgrade this offense. Defensively, they're awesome, but without TJ Watt, they're definitely a step below awesome. I thought that they made Jalen Hurts look really good, and it was clear that their corners could not cover Devontae Smith or A.J. Brown, which is a problem. The Steelers are a well-coached team. They've got a good infrastructure. They know what they are. They've got two good coaches in Smith and Tomlin, but I just don't think they're a legitimate threat to any actual real contender. I just don't. At number 8, the Houston Texans. The Texans, to me, are just a little bit better than the Steelers because I think their quarterback's better. I think they've got more talent at the skill positions. Mixon at running back, Nico Collins and Tank Dell and even Dalton Schultz. The O-lines are equally terrible. I think the Texans are really, really bad, but the Steelers are also not good either. The defense for the Texans, I honestly think matches up better with the elite offenses in the league, as we've seen against Buffalo and Detroit and Miami. This defense can dominate good opposition. Pittsburgh, I feel like they're great against bad teams, but against good offenses, I've yet to really see them dominate. Even against Dak and the Cowboys, it wasn't really that good. So the Texans' defense is a different level of fantastic, especially their pass rush. And if Stingley plays like that, they're trouble. They weren't even healthy against the Dolphins, and they still dominated. So I think this defense is legit. I'm really looking forward to them sacking Mahomes 7 times. At number 7, the Green Bay Packers. I don't know what to do with this team. I like them a lot. I cheer for them quite often. Obviously, my guy Christian Watson. Jordan Love has been one of my guys. He's playing better lately. I don't think he had to do a lot against Seattle. It was very much the Josh Jacobs show, which is what this offense has become, in all honesty. Jaden Reed needs to be more of a threat downfield for them, I think, to really go far in the playoffs. Romeo Doubs was nice to see him back and scoring touchdowns. The O-line's good. Matt LaFleur starts games as good as any coach in football, and their defense showed up in a big way on the road. That was impressive. I think this team is a legitimate dark horse. I just don't know where really to place them between number 8 and number 5. They're in that range, and I totally don't disagree. I don't think they're any higher than 4, but probably 5. But number 7, I just kind of think their defense a little too inconsistent for me to really put them above the 2 teams ahead of them. And that's just kind of my opinion right now, but it constantly changes. I nearly put them at 5, so it's hard. At number 6, the Minnesota Vikings. I just think the Vikings are a more well-rounded team than the Packers. I know the Packers have proven a little bit more in terms of last year. They were a playoff threat. The Vikings were not. But Sam Darnold is playing good football, and I think he's actually playing better than Jordan Love overall this year. I think that's no lie. Aaron Jones has been good for their running game, but their run game is certainly one of the more inconsistent aspects of the team. I think their coaching is phenomenal. One of the few teams that have better coaching than Green Bay, especially defensively. When you look at their offense, their O-line's still holding up pretty well. Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson are dynamic, and Jones on top of that. And their home field is always tough, as we saw on Monday night. Their defense is a lot of fun. I love watching it. Shout out to, I think it's Metellus. That guy is a stud. I love watching him play. Van Ginkel and Grenard, those guys were really playing well against Chicago. But yeah, number 6, Vikings are just I'm not quite sure I can see them winning the NFC, but I feel confident that no matter who they play, they're going to get a game. And they're kind of a weird team because I could see them losing to Tampa in the first matchup, but I could also see them getting to the NFC Championship. So I'm not really sure what to think about this team. It's kind of hard in terms of projection, but I know what I see with my eyes, and that's a pretty good team on both sides of the ball. At number 5, the Baltimore Ravens. I think there's just a little bit more legitimacy to the Ravens due to who plays quarterback for them. And due to their coach being a Super Bowl champ, the Ravens are going to score on 99% of the league except for Pittsburgh. They play Pittsburgh this week. They struggle against Pittsburgh. Don't know why. Divisional opponent, black and blue rivalry. It is what it is. Their O-line's solid. Their receivers are pretty good. Their run game is awesome. I think they need to lean into that down this stretch of the season. Really make that their identity for the rest of the year if they want to go far. And defensively, I actually think they're getting better, right? I said their flaw is pass defense. It totally is. But they're getting better. They're trending up. If Justin Tucker can hit some kicks, they can get leads in games. There's very few teams that can beat them. So the Ravens just punish teams, which is why some odds makers have them as the number 1 team in the power rankings. That's why DVOA has them, I think, as the best team in football, because they just destroy everybody, but they also lose some disappointing matchups. So this has been an inconsistent team this year at number 5. But Lamar, just because Allen is MVP doesn't mean he's still playing spectacular football. He definitely is. At number 4, the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs just continue to win. I think that Mahomes played pretty well against the Browns, despite, really scoring only 21 points. They're trying to get Worthy going, but it's not really working. Believe it or not, they're trying to throw the ball down the field. Their O-line's a real problem for me, especially at tackle positions. Their run game has kind of sputtered as of late. Defensively, I thought they played one of their best games they played in about a month against Cleveland, so that was impressive. They forced a lot of turnovers. They got a lot of pressure on Jameis. So if they can complement, if they can get that type of defense and they can complement that with a little bit better of an offense, you can envision how they could make this work for another playoff run. It just feels like their defense isn't quite at that level at a consistency. We'll see how they play against the Texans. They should play well, considering how the Texans have played offensively. But I think their offense is also going to struggle with the Texans. So they're not quite the team it feels like that they were last year. But it also feels like at the same time, it wouldn't shock you if they ended up winning the Super Bowl. So at number 4, the Chiefs. The voodoo continues. At number 3, the Detroit Lions. I could argue the Chiefs at 3 and the Lions at 4 because of the defensive injuries of the Lions. I just want to see how the Lions play without Carlton Davis, McNeil, obviously Hutchinson. We'll see how it goes. But we know that this offense is going to score 40 points a game. Like, that's what they do. They score 30 a game, sometimes 40. There's just not many teams that can do that. They control the game offensively. They run the ball. I'm not too worried about David Montgomery being out if it means Jahmyr Gibbs gets more of the ball. That's great. Maybe they throw the ball more to Jamison Williams or Tim Patrick, one of their extra options, or Sam Laporta, who hasn't had a huge year this year, but certainly capable. Ben Johnson's awesome. They'll figure it out on offense. I think they'll be fine. Defensively, I'm really, really, really concerned. I think that they're open for an upset. I've seen teams like this before. Dynamic offense, home game in the playoffs, perhaps a bye, and their defense is a liability. And I could see them losing to a lot of teams with good offenses. It doesn't even have to be a good defense. It could just be a good offense that outscores them. So I'm concerned, but I still think that their season, their resume speaks for itself. And I feel like their talent speaks for itself and their offense speaks for itself. So at number 3, the Lions. At number 2, the Philadelphia Eagles. I think this is the most well-rounded team in the NFL. I think they have the best defense overall in the NFL. I think their secondary is the strength of the defense. The areas that I feel like are a little bit less reliable are the pass rush and the run D areas. If I were to nitpick, which is nitpicking, just to underline that. Offensively is most of my concern, right? Like, they played Pittsburgh really well. They actually had a good game plan. I thought Kellen Moore did a great job. I think that their passing game is still a little flawed and simple, and I think Hurts is just not the guy that I want to rely on to throw the ball 30 times in a playoff game. And that's what concerns me, right? That's where they could get upset. But with this team's ability to protect the quarterback, run the ball, win one-on-ones on the outside, and play defense, there's a very small window of opportunity for their opponents to take. And it takes special talent on the other side to be able to pull it off in special coaching. So at number 2, the Eagles. At number 1, the MVP, Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. Josh is the best player in the sport. It's not really that close right now if you guys have been watching. I think the offensive line doesn't get talked enough about. I think they are top 3 in the league right now, top 3 or 4. They're awesome. Run and pass game, they're great. Kincaid and Coleman added a little bit back to this offense once we saw them back. I mean, they don't even have to use Amari Cooper. They only need to use him when they have to pull they have to hit the red button, so to speak. Like, they didn't really need to use him against Detroit. He's still there. Shakir, Samuel, Ty Johnson, Davis, Cook. They find so many different playmakers to get the ball. It's so hard to stop their run game and their pass game. I don't think there's a defense in the league that can stop them and hold them under 27 points. I really don't. They'd have to get very, very fortunate for that to happen, especially if the game is played in a dome. As we've seen in recent weeks, this offense takes it to another level if it's not outdoors. And it's weird because they play in Buffalo. But of course, outdoors is going to impact your scoring. And it always does. Defensively, I'm concerned. I would be lying if I said I wasn't. But at the same time, they had injuries. They were playing the best offense in the league. In the last 2 weeks, they've played very unique offenses in terms of, I think Ben Johnson and Sean McVay are very similar. Their offenses are very similar. They're physical, yet they've got the finesse through the passing game to pull it off. And they've got unique talents like Amon-Ra and Puka Nacua. There's not a lot of offenses that I feel like can replicate that production. I don't think Kansas City can. I think the Ravens would have to go run heavy. I don't think the Eagles can. They would have to go extremely run heavy. I think that, you look at a lot of the contenders, Pittsburgh, Houston, Minnesota even, like maybe Green Bay, but there's not a lot of these teams that I think could do what these teams are doing to the Bills consistently. Maybe like 3 out of 10 times, but not anything consistent. I think the Bills' defense is better than they've been showing is the point. And I think actually having played these games, it showcases their flaws and it might allow them to fix them, especially considering their starting safeties were out. Rasul Douglas is out. Like, they could get players in there. So at number 1, McDermott, call your timeouts correctly. Kick the ball inbounds, in play with 13 seconds left. As long as Allen's playing this way, this would be the team I think will raise the Lombardi. Those are my power rankings for Week 16. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, Gronk spike the like button, and we'll see you soon. Peace.